Who cares?
Welcome to Sleepover Cinema, where we analyze the movies, shows, and music that created the collective unconscious of those who refuse to hate anything that involves Lindsay Lohan. I'm Hannah Leach.
And I'm Audrey Leach, and I simply do not believe Chris Pine could ever be down on his luck. And today, we're ready to entrust our burgeoning music business careers to the manager from Elf.
We're going to explore the good, the bad, and the nonsensical aspects of a half-baked magic system involving the passing back and forth of misfortune like a communicable disease.
We'll try not to be petty as we discuss 2006's Just My Luck.
Ashley is a good luck charm.
This isn't mine. This is it. Sarah Jessica Parker's.
You are the luckiest person in the world.
Taxi! Please tell her that I'm not lucky. We were voted prom queen at Franklin High. So, we went to Jefferson.
Jake is a bad luck magnet.
You're fired. You're firing me. You don't even pay me.
But on one special night,
I was just about to ask this lovely lady to dance.
one kiss switched their luck.
Who was that? I don't know. My shoe. My dress.
Taxi! You saved my life. There's got to be a way I can repay you.
Is it just me or did I just get lucky?
Ashley Albright, you're under arrest.
Is this about Sarah Jessica Parker's dress?
That's my seat.
You're fired. Is this your floor, too?
This is my new apartment?
Home theater, satellite TV.
Did anything unusual happen at that party?
I kissed a cute guy, but... So does that mean that he took my luck from me?
Maybe he needed it more than you.
Can I give you a ride?
Thank you. Why are you so nice?
Let's just say I know what it's like to be SOL.
What makes you think I'm SOL?
Yeah.
Oh.
I know of a job if you're looking for one.
When one door closes, two others open. My bad.
Lindsay Lohan,
What can I say?
Chris Pine,
I've been the luckiest guy in the world.
Jake is the guy I kissed at the masquerade bash.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
from the director of How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
See, that's not good. Hi.
Just My Luck.
Hello. We're fashionably late with this green lighting and talking about luck.
We are.
It is
You're
not
so
the
right.
Ides of March.
It's fully April.
Today we're having on Lexi Shaye, Lexi of Movie Surfers. We connected via Instagram roughly around the time that we had HBO Girls Rewatch Pod on Sleepover. She is a woman of the New York comedy scene, and therefore there was a crossover that happened.
Mm-hmm.
She runs a live commentary show in Brooklyn called Movie Surfers. And it kind of has the aesthetic of Disney 365. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
Like that.
yes.
There was some like BTS Disney Channel thing they used to play that reminds me of their logo. But anyway,
Yeah.
unfortunately was never able to go because I didn't know it existed before I moved to California. So that sucks. But when I go back, if there's one happening, which I highly doubt, but if there is, I will go.
You're going to do your best.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lexi is a recent scholar of Just My Luck, as they recently watched it during a live show. So I look forward to hearing her takes about this movie. I had never seen it until we prepped for this episode. If you've seen it, you know there's a lot of things to talk about with this one.
Logic issues.
Yes. Yes. So before we get into the facts and before we have Lexi join us, I went to Regal Cinemas over the weekend and I saw Immaculate after our last conversation where you suggested that it would be a good option.
Yeah.
I thought that it was pretty good. I think that the setting did a lot for it. Like, it's in an Italian convent, so it's kind of hard for that to be a bad vibe. I do think that Sydney Sweeney just talking normally is just so
American and
so American and
current.
like Yeah, like so current that it's like distracting a little bit, but her horror acting was really good. Like she did a great job. And if you like a gory movie, there's some good gory stuff in this one I was surprised by. I thought it was pretty good. It was a fun time at the movies. And I got a big ass bucket of popcorn and a giant Diet Pepsi. But once again, I was using my Regal Unlimited status to get in. And Josh and I have been seeing so many movies because of Regal Unlimited. That's just never been my life before. But now that I have this opportunity, I'm taking advantage of it to the fullest. So if that sounds like a life that you would want to live, use the link in our bio to get 10% off your first 3 months of Regal Unlimited. It feels very VIP, and I cannot recommend it enough. And thank you again to Father Regal for sponsoring us.
Mother.
You're right. Mother.
We would never have father sponsor.
To Mother Regal. Yeah, you're right. Anyway, that being said, would you like to get into the facts?
Yes.
Just My Luck was released in theaters on May 12th, 2006. It was rated PG-13 for some brief sexual references. And also in the movie, they say the phrase shit out of luck and bitch each once.
Okay, synopses. IMDb. In Manhattan, Ashley Albright is a lucky woman and very successful in the agency where she works. The clumsy Jake Harden is an unlucky aspirant manager of the rock band McFly, who is unsuccessfully trying to contact the entrepreneur Damon Phillips to promote his band. When Ashley meets Jake in a masquerade party, they kiss each other, swapping her fortune with his bad luck. It's actually a masquerade bash, and I really feel like that.
I know, they're understating it.
Rotten Tomatoes, as the luckiest woman in the world, Ashley has a wonderful life, which all changes after she kisses a stranger at a costume party. It's a masquerade bash. She sees everything turn into a living hell as she realizes that she has unwittingly exchanged her good fortune for the stranger's bad luck. Finally, letterboxed, Manhattanite Ashley is known to many as the luckiest woman around after a chance encounter with a down-and-out young man at a masquerade bash. However, she realizes that she's swapped her fortune for his.
The most important takeaway is the setting of the inciting incident.
Taglines. There's 3. The first is good luck charm, bad luck magnet. Everything changed in the wink of an eye. There's no winking though.
There's no wink. There's just a wink on the poster.
That's cute, I guess. And finally, everything can change with a kiss.
This movie is directed by Donald Petrie, best known for his work directing How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days and Miss Congeniality, which is interesting considering how this movie panned out, as well as Grumpy Old Men and Mystic Pizza.
You need to watch Mystic Pizza.
Why?
It's so good. You need to watch it.
Okay. I will keep that in mind.
Early Julia Roberts film where they work in Mystic, Connecticut at a pizza shop, Mystic Pizza, and which is a real pizza shop. And there's like 3 girls going through life navigating. It's good.
Literally all you need to say is 3 girls going through life navigating, and I'm there. So perfect.
It's so 80s too. Like incredibly 80s.
The screenplay is written by 2 people. First of all, we have Marlene King, showrunner of Pretty Little Liars and all of its spin-offs.
Anyone who's watched more than the first season of Pretty Little Liars knows that she is willing, and of course, writing a movie and writing a TV show are very different. And she had a writer's room for Pretty Little Liars, but like she's the showrunner, so she determines overall direction, continuity, etc. And that just was not a priority to her with Pretty Little Liars, which is ultimately unfortunate because the hook of that show is unraveling a mystery that needs to make sense. And so unfortunately, and a lot of it is kind of not her fault because the show went on a lot longer than she could have anticipated. When you've got a series of books and then you've got a TV adaptation, they pretty much have to diverge. There's, especially with the demand of like the volume of content that was being asked of her. So it ends up just being a million false starts to a conclusion that is not possible due to what has already happened. But because they need a shocker, that's what the show became. It was like filling in, it was like writing an essay with a bunch of run-on sentences. Like, it was quite the experience.
The other person credited with having written the screenplay is Amy Harris, who is a producer / writer. She has worked on Sex and the City, The Carrie Diaries, The Comeback, The Wilds, Gossip Girl. The fact that she did Sex and the City, Carrie Diaries, and Gossip Girl, just the New York of it all is really palpable there. And I enjoy that. Also, it's not like she just did like a couple one-offs of these shows. Like, she did 57 of Sex and the City, 16 of Carrie Diaries, and a bunch of Gossip Girl too. And then Jonathan Bernstein, Mark Blackwell, James Greer, and Marlene King, once again, were credited as story. So now getting into the cast. I didn't really do a ton of work on this because there's a lot of really random people, and I tried to just give us the people that were memorable. So, of course, we have Lindsay Lohan holding it down as Ashley Albright. So we don't need to explain who Lindsay Lohan is, but in terms of career timeline, this movie came out in May 2006. Mean Girls and Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen were in 2004. In 2005, I just put this here for fun, she played herself in My Scene Goes Hollywood, but also in 2005, that's when Herbie Fully Loaded came out, and that movie is generally considered the last movie she was in and like could hang in professionally. Like, she wasn't starting to go off the rails yet. During the production of that movie is also when she was in her trailer recording the vocals for her debut album Speak, which I'm still listening to because I really like it. 2007 is when things got really bad. She got arrested for the first time, and this is the movie regarded as the beginning of her true downfall. Next, we have Chris Pine as Jake Harden. We know who he is generally, but he is Kirk in the Star Trek franchise. He was Steve Trevor in Wonder Woman. He's also in the Into the Woods movie, Don't Worry, Darling, etc. But in the sequence of his career, and most importantly to us, he was in Princess Diaries 2 in 2004, 2 years before this movie came out. I found this really interesting quote of Chris describing working with Lindsay during this movie. I also just came across a lot of really intense anecdotes about like what she was like on the set of this movie, which I kind of believe, kind of don't. We weren't there, who knows? But this is how Chris described the situation. It was a real cyclone of insanity, like being around the Beatles. It was fascinating to watch, and in hindsight, it's really a distinct moment in someone's life when you see what's really wonderful about what we get to do and what's really dangerous about it. That is tasteful. Yeah. Next, we have Faison Love as Damon Phillips, aka the music executive. Now, when this man stepped on screen, I was like, that is the manager from Elf. That's probably where you're going to recognize him from. But he was also Jamal in The Replacements and Big Worm in Friday. He was also on Step Up, High Water, and before Elf or any of these things, he was in 67 episodes of The Parenthood, apostrophe hood, and he was on an episode of That's So Raven, just for extra flavor. Then we have Missy Pyle as Peggy Braden. I just wanted to include her because she's Missy Pyle, Mrs. Beauregard, and Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. Then we have McFly, a real band who is in this movie. The band is made up of Tom Fletcher, Danny Jones, Dougie Pointer, Harry Judd, and they're still active. And somehow they finessed being in this movie. I really could not connect the dots on how they pulled it off, but that's why they seem maybe a little bad at acting.
Yeah. Okay, budget, $28 million. Opening made $5,692,285, and worldwide, $38,159,905. Not the best showing, but also that's a really good number for what the movie is.
Yeah.
Critic score from Rotten Tomatoes is 14%, probably one of our lowest ever. Critic consensus,
Yeah.
Just My Luck asks little of its leads and less of its audience, adding up to a middling teen rom-com that sorely lacks sparks. Metacritic gave it 29, and we're bringing back Roger Ebert for this one. Thank God, it's been like 10 years since we heard from him. 2 stars, A Hard Day's Plight. Some movies make me feel like I'm someone else. Other movies make me wish I were. Watching Just My Luck, I wished I were a teenage girl, not for any perverse reason, but because then I might have enjoyed it a lot more. Just My Luck is perfectly efficient in its own way, delivering exactly what anyone would expect in a Lindsay Lohan movie with this premise. I wish it delivered more. It's safe, competent, and bland. I had a fairly monotonous time. You may like it more. For your sake, I hope so.
Okay, so Common Sense Media said that this movie was appropriate for ages 13 and up and gave it 2 stars. Uneven Lindsay Lohan comedy, older tweens and up. And you know Common Sense Media came for this movie. Trying too hard to be perky, Just My Luck becomes increasingly bogged down in cliches. Wouldn't you know, Ashley loses her job and apartment and ends up working at the bowling alley where Jake used to work. For no good reason, they fall in love, and then she must decide whether to take back her luck or let him go on having a great life. That these seem the only options makes the movie seem unimaginative, as do the comic set pieces. Ashley falling off a ladder, Ashley gagging on someone's used gum, Ashley battling an oversudsing washing machine, etc. Ashley eventually makes a right choice, and at last the movie can end. The greatest mystery of Just My Luck is that it so badly uses Lohan, who can be terrifically charismatic and, as she was with Jamie Lee Curtis in Freaky Friday, prone to smart comic timing. This movie evinces little of that, only puts her in one silly situation after another.
Audience score 48%. Letterboxd score 2.8. That's actually pretty kind. Audience takes 1.5 stars. I do have to confess that I watched it. I won't make that mistake again. 2.5 stars. The 2 leads almost make it work despite a below average script. 0.5 stars. This is a movie only a 5-year-old will like. Pure sap and poorly written. It's a disgrace and an insult to everything artistic. A special puke award to the band in the film. A watered down version of Green Day. In other words, horrible.
A special puke award.
2 stars. This is a Lindsay Lohan flick aimed mostly to young teenage girls. Captain Kirk, aka Chris Pine, is in it, and to this day, he must be wondering what the hell happened to him the day he signed up for this film. It's not a bad film, just a girly little flick that will be forgotten right after watching it. Still, the concept is interesting. The actors are pleasant to watch. Lohan has a certain appeal for an audience for sure. It's just a random film, no offense.
Just a random film, no offense. That really amused me. A special puke award, like I want to make that a segment in the show.
Yeah, like what
for
from
whatever
the
is
thing
the worst thing.
is the special puke award.
Yeah. So our memories.
I remember seeing the trailer when it actually was coming out. It was at the beginning of one of our DVDs. I saw the trailer a lot. I mean, it doesn't really make sense that we never watched it because loved Chris Pine, loved Lindsay Lohan. I think we could just kind of deduce that it wasn't good.
I think we just knew. We're going to get into it though.
Yeah, it's a tough sell.
Yes.
Even for like the hottest star of the time. I mean,
know.
that's... Why did no one intervene?
No one intervened.
But okay, not to be shady, I love Lindsay like to this day, but she doesn't care if the premise is bad. Like she's doing films right now. Like for example, this movie called Irish Wish just came out and it's very funny that it also has to do with luck.
Yeah.
Or I actually don't know that it has to do with luck, but it takes place in Ireland. There's like a wedding. I don't know.
I mean, it's a Hallmark movie,
and
right?
it also, she like, no, it's Netflix. Love her and can also appreciate the fact that she doesn't really give a shit about the quality of a premise and like what kind of film that means for her.
Yeah.
When she stumbles into good writing, it's like, why aren't you doing this every single time? Like Mean Girls, for example.
Right.
It's just interesting
Yeah.
that she doesn't really seem to care about that much.
Someone needs to write her, like, I'm sure someone is doing it as we speak.
Her Big Little Lies moment.
Yeah, or like a Judy Garland Star is Born, like, comeback vehicle that, like, plays off the tragedy of her life or whatever. Honestly, I'm probably gonna watch Irish Wish just because I love her that much. Have you seen it?
No, Hunter watched it and then he told me everything about it.
Did he say it was bad?
Yeah, of course it's bad.
Well, we are going to take our little break.
It's on Hulu. It's on YouTube. It's on Amazon. It is on a lot of things, actually. Why?
They just really want you to be able to see it, clearly. So give it a watch and meet us back here, and we will chat with Lexi.
Everybody, we are back with Lexi, and we are here to really get into it about Just My Luck, which we kind of decided to talk about because I noticed that you had recently covered Just My Luck in your show, right?
Yeah, I do a live commentary show, kind of like a little bit of like a Mystery Science Theater 3000 type, but with those old like nostalgic rom-coms or just like cheesy flicks from early 2000s. And I did vie for this one very hard to get seen on a big screen with a whole group of people. So
I wish I was there. I'm mad that I wasn't. Okay, so earlier we were trying to figure out like how we connected, and wasn't it basically that somehow kind of through Amelia or through their pod? Is that what happened?
Yeah, I think I saw that you did an episode, or you were working on an episode with Amelia and Evan from the HBO Girls Rewatch podcast. Love them both. And I was like, wait, y'all do a podcast about films that I love, and like you cover topics that are so funny. So I was like, I'm just gonna follow. And then it was just like that mutual thing. I'm like, wait, you also do stuff that's cool that I like. And I was like, awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like by luck, maybe, who knows, that I saw their story.
Hey. Before we get into the depths of Just My Luck, we wanted to also ask you, and out of like this genre of movie, what is your favorite one, or maybe like your favorite one to hate on?
I will say Sleepover the movie itself is one that I recently rediscovered as a hilarious rewatch. It definitely has its problematic moments, but it's also that rare film where I don't think there's really a lot of the like 8th grade coming of age like stories, and it's not as exactly, I guess, more of a rom-com, as more of like the friends like on an adventure type thing. But that one's just like wild to go back to, because I mean it has great music, it has skateboarding sequences. It did give me false hope of like, I'm gonna get to freshman year and date the hottest guy and sit by like at the fountain, and that never happened. It's just like a wild one. So that's one that I recently have like loved to hate in a way. And it's also like 85 minutes. That's also ones that I love to go for. Under 90 is actually sweet spot. From Justin to Kelly is my other one that I will, to the day I die, watch and force on people.
I really enjoyed that movie. And like Jane Lynch, like how you can't be mad when Jane Lynch is in something.
Exactly.
That just made me so happy.
That one has Sarah Paxton and Evan Peters, right?
Yes. And Brie Larson, like young, like not really at the forefront Brie Larson. You have Alexa Vega from, the Spy Kids series. So I was like, wait, I'm used to her to being an action star, and she's doing this. So that's what I knew that actors could genre bend. I think that's also range, as you will. It's goofy. And Steve Carell, duh. I forgot. Like,
but on the topic of Just My Luck,
yes.
When did you first watch it? And what are your memories surrounding it?
This is one that I definitely do recall watching on a DVD. So it definitely was watched in like my mom's Toyota van on some trip. Like for real, like because it came out in 2006, I believe. So that would be about around the time that my mom was driving me to whatever activity I was forcing her to let me participate in. And so it was one that I know that we probably would rent from Blockbuster, Redbox, whatever time that switch happened. So I remember having it in a DVD case, like being like, I want to watch this. Now, of course, upon rewatch, I'm like, oh, there are elements to the story that probably went way over my head.
Yeah.
But it also isn't like super, I don't know. I guess like the most like mature thing is the whole like random gigolo plot, which I don't know why. I thought he was getting arrested for being like too forward and kissing in public. Like I didn't know why. At the time. But yeah, that was I definitely have been watching this from a young age, and I think that's also too why it's like weirdly a comfort film for me of like I know I'm gonna get it's not long, it's goofy, it has Chris Pine in it. And I think too, I don't know if he did this or Princess Diaries 2 first, but I feel like they're around the same time, and Princess Diaries 2 with Chris Pine is such a staple in my upbringing of like ooh la la. So,
yeah, totally.
Him being in this too is kind of like I recognize this guy, and starting that whole trend there.
We have a short list of like, how do we like men
unproblematic
unproblematic white men, I think. Is our list. And he's on there. Who else? Jack Black
Patrick
is on
Wilson,
there.
Jack Black.
Patrick Wilson.
Patrick Wilson stan, for real. Yeah, that's a great one.
Why don't we start with the good things, the things that sparked joy before we get potentially petty on me and Audrey's part? Because we had not seen this movie until the past few days.
Oh wow! As like a first watch,
yes.
or
yes,
yeah,
oh.
had seen the
somehow
had seen the trailer a lot because it was at the beginning of a DVD that we had in our mom's minivan. So I remember the trailer
Toyota
really
minivan.
well. But yeah, I think we had cast some judgment based off the trailer and just never saw it, even though we did love Lindsay and we loved Chris. So I don't know why that happened. I think our child brains were like judging the premise also. It's
interesting because I feel like different things spark joy probably versus when I first saw this versus like now and just like rewatching it as an adult. I do work in a 9 to 5. I work in a kind of entertainment based thing, so I always find it now interesting to watch rom-coms from that era where every main girly was like in a type of PR firm working with celebrities, or she's like a journalist, and you know, it's all this stuff where you then realize that she's supposed to be in her early 20s and you're like, what's going on? So even though that like shouldn't spark joy, it does, because it's just like, oh, this was just like the delusional fantasy world of being an early 20s New Yorker. I mean, truly beyond just luck. The fact that she could go get sushi for lunch in the middle of the day and not like be scolded by her boss. Like how? But of course, like I feel like Chris Pine and her chemistry is actually pretty good. I liked seeing their on-screen scenes together. I also love McFly. I feel like the introduction to a good band that you come to realize was not fake. It was a real band. And I guess this was supposed to be an actual like launching pad for them, and did not work out in that way. But you know what? I love the effort. I love the beat. I listened to it on Spotify. Those were great things that sparked my joy. I also too, sorry to ramble, this is going to be a lot.
No, this is perfect.
I love a good reference, and I feel like this movie understood references to pop culture of that time and also to Lindsay herself, because there's a moment in the movie she references, like, spoiler, she gets arrested twice in this movie. And she references on the second arrest that she's like, oh no, that wasn't me, that was my twin. And she's like crazy. I'm like, oh yeah, technically that is in my mind a Parent Trap fallout.
And the camp thing. There's a line where she's like, oh, I met her at camp. And I thought that also reminded me of
exactly. No, like the screenwriters knew what they were doing there. And also too, just having her like steal Sarah Jessica Parker's dress. She's going out with the guy who's basically like the face of the CW at the time. I forgot his name, but I just call him the OC bitch guy. I like, those are just things that I'm like, this is kind of in itself a pocket of that time there, and it's fun. And you know what, the clothes are actually kind of good in my mind of like how heinous it could have gotten and how like realistically glam it was of the time, because no one knows how to dress anymore in like rom-coms today. So I feel like back then they knew how to dress Lindsay, they knew how to like keep it of that time. Those are just some things that popped into my mind, I guess.
It's like of that time but elevated in a way that contributes to her character. Because like what you see now is it's like things get generic really quickly. It's like this person could be anyone, but like you can tell that she's got money. You can tell, I mean, her closet, holy crap.
Her apartment.
Yeah, I was so taken off guard by the flood scene.
Oh my God, yeah. That actually is triggering.
Yeah, the way that they are hacking at her, like at her wall, and like she's just not even close to upset enough in that scene.
Yeah.
But also, again, it just shows the delusion because she's like, oh, like truly, when they make fun of her, they're absolutely correct. She's like, oh, great, I'm just gonna like change my clothes, and it's like, ma'am, there's literally like a crime scene of mold happening in your apartment. You gotta go. But
she
also
just
the
can't
fact that she
comprehend
had
it.
that. No, she cannot. She can't comprehend like living life as a normal human being. I would love to see her tax returns, actually.
Yeah. Like the beginning did kind of give me a little bit Brittany Murphy and Uptown Girls. Like there was that sort of thing of like this girl like lives a really charmed life. The premise becomes so literal that it's hard to take seriously in any way from like an emotional stakes standpoint. Like they dress Lindsay in all white head to toe, like in New York City. Like that's not something that you would do because you're gonna get dirty. Like it's gonna get fucked up. So like touches like that are kind of nice. Like I can appreciate that.
They had a thought for sure.
Yeah.
They definitely in a bit thought through that. No, I mean, I actually now thinking of that, I'm like, oh, I didn't put that together. But that is like, so yeah, that was a fun little quirk there. Also, the fact that she's 18, 19 filming this is another thing that also like kind of blows my mind in hindsight. Because again, whenever I rewatch rom-coms or movies of like the sleepover era of my life, and you watch it now and you're like, oh, these are like people that in my mind were like in their 30s. Like they were old, even though you're not old in your 30s, but it's like, oh, she's playing like a young 20-something, but she's truly like just freshly an adult filming this, which is wild too, because I think just of that time, she does fit into being in that mature light, but then also that's just like weirdly how cinema was with that age group. But yeah, no, the costuming, I will say, yeah, I think they hit it on the costuming. The job, I still don't understand what her job is beyond just putting on events. And you can get a corner office if you happen to pitch the Masquerade Bash. Very 2000s, very Gossip Girl.
Yeah. About the first like 15 minutes or whatever, there's so much good and there's so much bad. One thing that Audrey and I always talk about with movies that star like these sorts of girls, like the starlets of the time, is we're always talking about, are we getting to see them do what we want to see them do? So like, for example, we always talk about New York Minute and how we're like, we don't want to see them going through all that. Like that's not fun. And I think that the first 15 minutes of this movie are exactly what I want to see happening with Lindsay Lohan. I want to see her killing it and like having no problems. I don't know why. I just found that to be really fun. Okay, there was one really nitpicky thing. There's two, actually. These two lines were so funny and bad to me. One of them was when she's in the elevator with the face of the CW, and he's like, I'll meet you at the bar, whatever, and she's like, I'll be the redhead that looks like this. And then the other thing was when they were at the sushi restaurant, the friends are listening to her like that her life is so good and that she's like so lucky, and she's like, tell her that I'm not lucky. And I just think it's funny that they're like lucky is a real thing. It's like they're saying like, tell her that I'm not
rich,
like, right, like tell her I'm not rich. Like that's kind of what it feels like. And
they treat luck like a tangible thing that you can have or not. You can have forever and always, or you can never have it all. Once everything has kind of gone down and she's like, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna go to Grand Central, I need to go sort things out at home. Her friend is like, you still believe in all that stuff? That is kind of telling the audience that Lindsay's character had this like established paradigm in her head about luck and told her friends about it. It's funny because like there is a way that this could have worked, because definitely like everybody knows like that girl, do you know what I mean, like who does seem to get everything she wants and like can totally understand the frustration from the friend of like, how are you, like how is this your life? I can buy that because that totally exists, but then to just add in the the like literal, very literal element.
No, for sure. I mean, the sequence, there's two sequences I wanted to bring up from that. One was when she's in the taxi cab in the beginning and everything's going right, but the whole calling into the radio and being like, can you guess our secret like song? You'll get a free cruise. And she goes, oops, I did it again. Like, who would say that? Because that's not her answer. That's her just saying, I called the wrong number or something. And I'm just like, okay, like like she wasn't guessing it. I'm pretty sure that was like a misdialed number.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect.
Right.
That's crazy.
So it's just like that is like zany, like, ooh, like how could that happen? But then it does get a little dicey, like you said, when it becomes like the whole, I don't know how her friends are still friends with her, because I would have been over it. Like her friend that's been friends with her since high school, I'm like, I guess you're maybe sticking with her in hopes that some of this can rub off on you. Right? Because it's just like, one, when she has to stay with them in their apartment, it's like from the jump, like basically she's shitting on their apartment, being like, oh, like cute. And she knows that she's been having bad luck, but she's still, it hasn't like clicked that it's from like the kiss thing. So she gets invited on like the second date with CW guy, and she's like, oh, and then her friends are like, well, like unlucky girls wouldn't be asked out by like Us Weekly's top eligible men. You know, the unlucky girls have to sit at home eating last Halloween's candy and watching Oprah. I'm like, okay. Like, honestly, the lucky girl is like the one who gets the date canceled on, because probably they didn't want to go on it anyways, and she didn't want to go on it anyways. But that always cracked me up, because it was like kind of that weird, and you kind of then see her friend who's also a CW person, but she's kind of weird now, problematic, Samara Armstrong. She's like the artsy girl who sings and plays the guitar and likes to wear fur on her collar. She or feathers, whatever it was so 2000s. You can see that she's kind of like the Chris Pine like unlucky version in that friend group, where like homegirl cannot get her song to be played, and like all they can do is go, oh well, sorry, I need to kiss him so I can like, you know, get my apartment back and my job back. I'm like, this is crazy. Also, they can never do it with non-white people. Like that would just be this is such a white privilege movie too at the end of the day. It's really just my white privilege is what it should be called.
When we were talking about the sushi scene and we were talking about like, tell her I'm not rich, I was gonna say like, tell her I'm not privileged, like these things, like I can't help that I have all these things. That is the vibe.
Because that's like the real life equivalent. Like somebody like that in real life, it's somebody who won't acknowledge their privilege. But in the context of this movie, it's somebody who won't acknowledge their actual life enforced luck that they have for some reason. The logic of the scratch off ticket gets so like magical. It's like magic realism, to the point where she was telling Chris Pine like, oh, scratch this off and tell me you're not lucky, as though the numbers would be now not winning numbers for her when the ticket is in her hand. But as soon as she hands it to him, the numbers underneath would change and he would win. Like that is basically the logic that we're going with. And it's
sci-fi fantasy for real.
It's genre bending. Actually
genre bending. That logic is wild. And like too with the getting somewhere like across town because you're hitting all the green lights somehow in Manhattan, not possible. Like literally the same happens in Newman, and that's like kind of a similar plot where it's just like somehow people are getting across town in like 10 minutes, but it's supposed to be probably a 40-minute commute, but luck. And I'm like, okay, so does that mean everyone else behind you is getting this lucky streak as well, or something's gonna happen? So, well, we see at the end too, it's magical realism because everything at Grand Central is going crazy. Because their times, you know,
because they keep making out.
Because they're passing it back and forth.
It's so like, that's so like gross that it's like, it has to be a mouth. Like, ew.
Oh no, talk about like COVID scare. And they even wear masks at one point in this movie. The fact that she had to go through, so she kisses Chris Pine at the event. They switch their luck. And then when she realizes from the madam that she needs to kiss it to switch it back. And then she goes on this hunt to stalk and make out with men, no matter if they are at the altar about to get married, they're on their deathbed, in the hospital, in a sauna, like running. It's one of the most wild sequences. And then I think too, like, just one where definitely I don't think that aged well. It's definitely like, I feel like in a moment of like, oh, this is just rom-com logic, I guess, but like could not happen today, could not be gender swapped either. Like if that was a guy doing the same thing, that would be like, that's a thriller murder movie. Like that's a horror movie.
Yeah.
If a man was tracking down women to make out without any warning on the street. But it's charming because it's a rom-com. That part always makes me go, oh no, I could never, like swapping spit with 20 random strangers. Bad.
It's also just kind of hilarious to think about like the fact that so she's looking at their headshots. She's just finding the dancers from the masquerade bash via running around and like comparing it to people. Like this is not possible.
Can one of you remind me where the stack of headshots comes from? Like how does she even have that?
Because she planned the party.
Oh yeah, one of her friends must have swiped it.
The people that were there?
Well, I think
like, was she
the
casting,
idea.
Yes.
No, they're the dancers. Because remember, that's how Chris Pine.
Oh, right.
Okay,
who wasn't a real dancer?
She
he
doesn't
infiltrated.
have his headshot, which
Right.
is a problem.
Right.
How could
Major
she?
problem.
Maybe this is like a Cinderella story with the mask thing. Yes,
I was just saying that. It's like no one knows how to recognize a face.
Yeah, like I think Lindsay would know based off these headshots that none of those guys were the guy, right? I mean, I guess she just assumes that it has to be because it was a person in a dancer's outfit that she kissed. So I guess that makes sense. But her friends take her mission very seriously. It's just funny that all of the dancers, just a day or a few days after this event, they're all having some really serious life events occur to them. Marriage, death, like everything.
Life trolls on for them for real. Yeah, that would be someone's TikTok story today of her being like, guys, I made out with this guy and it was like really special. And I just feel like she would probably have to fudge it and then be like, I'm searching for someone. If you were at this party, like, I don't know. I would feel like she would be the one to take it to TikTok and find him and become this whole thing. Because going around by walking is just too much. I don't know how she had the time. In New Orleans, aka New York, since they did film it in New Orleans, which I always find funny too. Yeah, no.
Could have been everything though, right? Because the exteriors are some of them are real, but the interiors are not.
Yeah, they did split it.
The interiors are New Orleans because when I was looking up facts about it, they were like, fun fact, they shot all the interiors in New Orleans right before Hurricane Katrina hit. Yeah. Very tastefully, they include that detail.
Yeah.
Speaking of the concept of a remake, though, one thing that I was thinking about, and again, it was kind of based off of the earlier point of like getting to see Lindsay do what we want her to do. I was like, what if, even in this movie itself, what if it was that the guy started lucky and she started unlucky and then it switched?
Well, that was my assumption. That was actually my first note that I wrote, was that I always thought that that's what it was, because usually that is the premise that will be pursued in movies like this, because like in a rom-com, a lot of times the girl is gonna have more issues. She's fraught in some way and she's struggling.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see it like her being unlucky and then the switch. I don't know. I guess they just switch enough times in the movie that it all kind of gets thrown to the wall anyway. But
yeah, I mean, I think the idea of like Chris Pine starting off as like a dick and then being humbled, and then him like winning her over by being humbled, and then she's like, okay, fine, like I'll give it back, like, you know, just some shit like that.
Yeah.
I think that would have potentially given it more staying power also, because I'm thinking in my mind, like, in Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, like, we get to see her, like, in cool outfits, in a play, kissing a boy, making friends. And, like, I think that's a big part of why people still look back at that movie and love it so much, is that there's all these, like, iconic moments that are, like, tied with fun things. Whereas in this, it's like, oh, no,
Zany.
the washing machine is bubbling. Like, you know,
I hate
just
that
all those
shit.
things.
The washing
Yeah.
machine. Oh, boy.
Yes. With the Tide product placement.
Yeah.
Also. And the Sidekick 2 product placement, which honestly I kind of
Yeah, that's
loved.
fun.
Like the sticker that said Sidekick 2 on the back of the screen. I know this is not like a fresh take, but like I miss having like unique phones. Like a different user experience with each phone. Like, damn.
I will say, I think I would be so much of a better person today if I could like whip out an LG chocolate, like
Right.
going out now versus when I was
Yes.
like in middle school and I can only text 3 people. And if I went online,
Yeah.
it would charge me $50 to watch Pussycat Dolls. True story.
Yeah.
That didn't like actually happen to
Exactly.
me. Oh my gosh. No. I mean, what did you guys then think of like Chris Pine's like lucky streak and like seeing his luck change? Because if anything, his I don't think was as rooted in materials. Obviously, he was like put up in places because of his job, but I feel like you said, I think we kind of get to see that reverse of like he starts out as an actual nice guy who's just had a really bad run of luck, and so when you see him get lucky, you don't want to actually see him lose it. You feel bad.
If he had had more of a character arc, then we could have felt differently about his luck changing. Like, yeah, I kind of agree. Maybe he should have been a dick at first, but his personality is consistent. Like, there is no transformation for him. Because you know how, like, there's a whole section of this movie where it's like, let's humble Lindsay Lohan's character by having her work at a bowling alley and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I've always hated that in sleepover cinema movies. There's another one, and I'm trying to think of what it is, where they spend a large portion humbling the protagonist. It always feels like shitting on somebody who we are supposed to like or be rooting for. It doesn't always feel like they are organically becoming a better person through this process of working at a lower paying job or whatever it is. Like, she doesn't have a place to live anymore. It's like we just watched her entire life be taken from her. Again, it's just not very fun to watch.
Yeah.
This is like, and
You don't like seeing her get electrocuted?
right, or
And
almost
swallowing gum
yeah.
that's already been chewed? You don't like that?
No, it's like not enjoyable.
That was gross.
Yeah.
I would so much rather spend the runtime of this movie like watching, like if we could have a Before Sunset with Lindsay Lohan and Chris Pine, like that's what I want. Let's do that.
Dream. Oh my God.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
One of my last notes was, I hate to say it, but they're actually a really cute couple. Like the whole scene in the end, I'm like, God damn.
Like, why couldn't we have done this during this movie? Like,
yeah. I really love Lindsay in everything I've ever seen her in. There's just something like, we've talked about these girls so many times, and she just is such a good actor. She's so much better than the other people of this clump. Even with like the era of her career that she was in, this was like the beginning of the spiral. Like the part where they're at the train station and she's like about to give it all up, and it's before they kiss, and she's like silent tears, like so genuinely upset by this situation. I'm like, she's giving it to us despite the material.
Either way, I agree. There is an emotional beat where she does like sell that. And again, she just has that charisma. She's able to go through this movie and just be Lindsay in a way that if you put any other actress, like you said, into this role, it would have been a bit harder
harder sell.
A harder
Yeah.
sell. And again,
Yeah.
too, their chemistry really helped. I don't think they've ever worked together again. But also, too, I think that's part of Chris Pine's charm and his talent, that he knew he was in his bag, like doing rom-com. It's like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna be charming. I'm playing a total, complete, like, pathetic character, unfortunately, that like do no wrong until I make out with Lindsay Lohan. But he's still like sympathetic. Like, you're not, and in a way,
Yeah.
like when people are like, "Oh, he's such a loser," I'm like, but he's hot.
That's what I thought. I was like,
Talking
no,
about.
they're never gonna say that to him. Like, just because you
No.
have on a messenger bag and glasses, like that's really not.
And saggy cargo pants.
Yeah,
They
like-
tried.
I'm like, that wasn't a specifically uncool outfit at the time. Like, your face, you're still a hot person. This is not an issue.
Absolutely.
It was kind of Mark from Rent, the outfit in the beginning. Now that I think about it, it was a little Mark from Rent. But with that,
No scarf though. No scarf though.
I know, and no stripes. It's just the energy. I will say, and this feels very like 90s 2000s because it happens in Titanic, and it happens in another movie where there's like the mistaken, like, I look like I'm raping someone. I know I shouldn't come right out and use that word probably. You know what I'm saying though, when he like knocks the woman over on accident and then his pants fall down and then he's like on top of her and it's like, this is a zany misunderstanding. I was like, it's a little early in the movie for that. I don't know though. And it's like in broad daylight. I was just like, this was an interesting one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how
for
unlucky he was. That's how
Like, damn. Yeah.
Did he get arrested from that, or did he?
He
yeah.
did,
Well,
I guess.
he ran away and then they arrested him
Okay,
somehow.
right.
The amount of arrests is really funny also
Truly,
in this.
the NYPD is on site for a lot of these instances. Shocking.
And the idea
Yeah.
that like the women in the like little holding cell would be the same people like days
Yeah.
later
Oh my God.
was so stupid.
House Bunny, I think, came out after, but that reminded me of House Bunny, of like, that used to be again another like trope of the time,
Yeah.
to be like, oh, we got to put them in a jail cell, like, ha ha.
Yeah.
And then they're like interacting with probably the only like people of color, except for like the record exec in this one is a black guy,
Yeah.
but like, you know, a very white film, and they're like, oh, but
Yeah.
they have those stereotypes there. You go, ugh, that not the best. But for
Yeah.
comedy, that is also an interesting point, like you said, how it's the same people, they're still there. But also, we don't really know
Yeah.
the timeline of what this movie is. It could be over 3 days, weeks, months.
Yeah. I'm like,
now that I
that's
think about it,
not
like-
how this works.
yeah, now I think about it, like, I don't think there's any like particular holiday that they use to pinpoint, which oftentimes I do appreciate in movies, or unless it's like a How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, which you know what the timeline is. But
Right.
like in this, now I'm thinking about, I'm like, what?
We have no idea.
We have no idea.
Enough to like get kicked out of an apartment and get a new job and train at your new job and be truly humbled.
It has to be
Yeah.
a few weeks. It actually has to be. Otherwise, it just becomes more magical. Like, you know, the second that luck is passed from person to person, it's like a butterfly effect. Like, everything changes. It's so
Right.
and people
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
forget, like her boss, for example. It's like as soon as luck is passed, she has a change of heart, like immediately, which I guess could happen quickly. I guess you don't really know.
I'm still thinking about the fact that you used the word gigolo earlier. I was not expecting that, and I loved it.
That's what he is, right?
Yeah.
Right? Or, I
No,
don't know.
that is what he is. No, you're right. I just like feel like I never think of that word, and then when you said it, I was like, that is what he is. That's a good word.
I know.
Thank you for using it.
Of course, my pleasure. Oh yeah, no, that.
Yes.
Oh, also to that random note that they just have. I feel like that was very interesting too, that they made Missy Pyle such, like, as she described, uptight and like,
It's so
I don't
weird
know,
for her.
so dominant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then to the point that then she's the one that gets like that proposed to him, and I don't know. I felt like that was supposed to be a gag. I'm like, so what? Like,
Yeah.
she's like, Like, let her find love with the gigolo. He's like free, I guess. Again, don't understand why they'd be like tracing him to the party to arrest him on site. But
Yeah.
because of the luck, that's why it happened. So yeah, the butterfly effect. If she never got unlucky, then I guess he wouldn't have been arrested.
Yeah. There's a lot of world questions. Also, one more detail about the jail thing. When she comes out, she has on police merch. She has on like a sweatshirt. I was like, she would get police merch from the fucking jail.
Yeah.
Like, how?
That's luck. But also good because it's like you can't have her running around in Manhattan broad daylight in that outfit. Like, I guess she needed to cover up, but also I don't know.
But that would be the bad
like
luck,
a random point,
right?
She would get colds.
Bad luck for you. We haven't even mentioned the aspect of this little sister and how she, you know how like in some movies they'll be like, because there's a little sister or a child in this movie, that is how we know that this man is not an asshole, is because he cares about a child. And
that's so true.
Yeah.
I also wrote down, do we think that the sister just exists for plot convenience? Because I feel like if they were writing up the beats or whatever, they'd be like, she thinks he has a girlfriend, and because of that she does XYZ, and they're like, wait, but how do we make sure he doesn't actually have a girlfriend? And then they're like, oh, it can be a younger sister because then he won't be a douche and it won't be a girlfriend.
I will say this, I'm about to reveal something about myself that I don't often volunteer. I'm not a fan of precocious children in cinema.
I get that.
I think if the movie is like PG, I mean, Uptown Girls is different because Dakota Fanning is acting and she is a character. Like Dakota Fanning, I think, is why I oftentimes get annoyed by other ones. She just really set the bar for me, like a young age of seeing how talented they can be. But like, I don't think this one is necessarily bad, but I agree. It's definitely just like a plot device of just like, like you can see that she gets like something glued to her face and he helps her. Like, it's a lot of this stuff of like, I guess she's also an example to show that bad luck runs genetically in their family line, maybe too. I don't know, but yeah, the girlfriend mix up, that's just something I guess that they were like, we need a problem. let's confuse it. She's not the worst though, because I will say normally I get very picky about children actors now, which isn't something that is so great to own, but also they can be so good, they can just be so talented, and sometimes it is just kind of a throwaway role.
Also, I just remembered it's actually his cousin, not his sister. And why?
Yes,
why
it's a
do
cousin.
that? Why cousin? Why do we need that?
Yeah, it's all so confusing. It really, I don't know. Yeah, because they like live across
it's
the
a grandma
hall from each other.
A grandma and then cousin and then him. Yeah, like why are we in the same building? Where are the missing family members? We just don't get to know about that.
Maybe if we're assuming that the bad luck runs in the family, perhaps these are the surviving members
They all
of the family so far.
Final Destination.
Because if you have exactly, who knows? But if the luck can be passed back and forth, though, it makes me think: did Chris Pine get it from someone else? And then it makes me think of like It Follows or something like that. Like, is this a thing that's being like desperately handed off? The logic of the luck is something that you just kind of have to go with.
I view it as, because it seems that everybody else in this world other than Chris and Lindsay are just neutral. None of them have solely good or bad luck. It seems like they all just experience life as it happens, but Lindsay and Chris are the two people in this world who have particularly good and bad luck and are the only two that can pass it back and forth until the end. And then I just got really confused. I was like, bullshit.
No. Well, but people do believe in superstitions in this movie outside of them, because then the record exec guy, he has his superstition about like what kind of songs for like the band to sing, and then
it's a theme.
Yeah, and then they love to bring in like horoscopes into it all. So
that's true.
Yeah, I think they just like to mash it all together. But like you said, it's like Chris Pine and Lindsay Lohan are just at total opposite extremes on the spectrum of like.
Yeah,
I'm surprised Chris Pine is, like you said, alive and surviving, because at this point, like, he should have been like hit by a car, like, struck by lightning. It's just all these things should have happened to him by now. That like, how is he walking on both legs? I don't know.
Especially when you're living in New York and you're like avoiding death even as a regular person 5 times a day with like cars and traffic and other people trying to push you
punched in the
front
face,
of the train.
maybe.
Yeah, like that's
you never know.
Kind of lucky. Lexi, you've seen this movie a lot more than we have, and thusly, do you have a grasp on like what happened with the luck at the end? Like, who got it? What happened?
Did they pass it to the cousin?
Oh, because they kissed her on the cheek.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh my god.
Yeah. Because they kiss her on the cheek, and then she scratches the lotto. She's like, I won.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, yeah. So I think in my mind, it's just like it confused the universe so much by swap and spit so much that the universe said, "Fuck it, you guys can just have both." Because then with the like hot, whatever, like the water explosion at the end,
right? The freeze frame.
The freeze frame. We love a freeze frame.
Yeah.
Technically that's gonna get both of them, and I guess that's sewage or whatever the hell's like about to sprout out of the New York's underground. So yeah, I think it's just like at that point, maybe that's why you need a sequel, because it's like, is the band gonna get affected by this? Is he gonna stop getting bullied? Is her friend gonna finally like get out of being in the mailroom of the PR firm? I don't know, because it's like so many people's lives are tethered to this luck situation here. But in my mind though, it ends with it being like just so
jumbled
up that it's just like no one's gonna have like straight up bad luck or good luck anymore. It's just gonna be as other people have the neutral stuff.
It was just
that was my interpretation.
Yeah. Well, right, because they're kind of framing it like, no, you should have the good luck. No, you should have the good luck. So let's just make out and confuse it so that we no longer, because the line of dialogue is like, who has it now type of thing. And they're like, I don't know, I don't care, which isn't like the worst resolution. But honestly, for me, I would rather that they added like a Freaky Friday element where there is like, in Freaky Friday, the room shakes and there is a real before and after. I think I kind of need that. Like, in order to believe that, because basically, and it's kind of like sketchy, but the astrologer or whoever that was, she could have been that person that kind of cursed her or did something. And there's a magical transformation. And then we've got, for some reason, the magical transformation again at the end, just so we can have bookends on this kooky experience. Because otherwise, you leave feeling like they're not really okay anyway. Like, someone's gonna
you're
die.
Not comforted.
No, they're both in danger. That is, I feel like you said, I feel if it was a curse situation rather than her just seemingly getting her cards read like anybody else, and she just so happens to get her cards read for filth and told you're gonna have your luck like basically. It is a lot of just like, it's just very unclear, very muddled. I feel like if it was a curse situation, that probably would have been more clear on the ending and how they're both left with this wild makeout session where they just say tag it.
And that logic is, it doesn't make sense, but at least as a viewer, we could understand it based off other things we've seen. It's like, this is a normal way for a curse to end, or like magic to change. And they didn't do it.
I was gonna say, I wish that the fortune teller was then a like teller at the train station.
Right.
But would that
That's
be
perfect.
but then would that be too like really going into like the supernatural of like she's just everywhere? But I feel like
I would love that.
I would like it.
Yeah.
I think that also that could have solved that like that issue or note of like tying it together of someone acknowledging this is how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be fate.
Oh my God. I
mm-hmm.
just thought of a third aspect to that. Imagine, okay, so she keeps showing up everywhere and Lindsay's like, how the hell is this woman everywhere? And then eventually near the end, we find out that she's actually like an apparition. Like she's not even physically there. And she is an ancestor of like Chris Pine. And
she's Madame Zeroni.
Exactly.
After everything.
Yeah.
Madame Zeroni.
And it's like a lot, like she's like, yeah, like you had to go through this. Like you're meant to be, you know, just something like that.
Uh-huh.
I do love the rewrite of that woman being an apparition. I think that is actually what is missing in this film. Because again, it's so like fantasy, like you might as well just go full throttle. Like why not?
Yeah.
Love a good ghost.
I feel like we have a full concept for a rewrite now. It's just a matter of actually writing it.
I mean, they're doing Freaky Friday too. We can send this
know.
in to Lindsay Lohan's team. I'm sure they would listen with full ears.
It would seem, looking at her IMDb, that she will only accept to act in a film if there is like a magic realism, wish fulfillment, or swap element. Like it's just I know people know her for that now, so she definitely gets pitched that probably a lot more. But it seems like she enjoys doing them. So
that's her bag there. She knows.
Yeah.
Like body swap.
Yeah.
I'm there. What's the call time? That could potentially unlock a whole nother conversation from me about Irish Wish, and I won't do that, but I just want to know, I see where you're going with that.
Yes, that is exactly what I was referring to. Oh man, well, I guess we did it, huh? I feel like we got there. We got to a good end place.
Okay, so at the end of the day, is Just My Luck a good movie? By whatever parameters are in your heart.
It's good in just the sense that like you can turn off your brain. It's not gonna get too, I feel like, I don't know, it's just like dumb fun to me, and maybe that's just because I have memories of watching it as a kid and it's gonna stick with me. Is it the best Lindsay Lohan film? No. If you want like true Lindsay fun, go watch Freaky Friday, go watch Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen. But I feel like for this, if you just want to see her in like a rom-com with Chris Pine, you're gonna get the rom in it. You get the com, maybe not the intentional kind, but it's not gonna hurt. An hour 40 minutes, it will fly by. I think it flies by. I don't think it drags. I think it is quite well paced. So that would be my pitch out there.
I don't think it's good.
Well, obviously, I mean, if you watched it today, like,
yeah, no,
yeah, yes.
I wish I had watched it initially, because at least the nostalgia can add so much to a watch. But I wasn't bored. I was like confounded by the plot in so many ways that and I really, really did like the production design. I really did like the wardrobe. I liked that it felt like a conglomeration of like so many movies in one. Like I felt like I had seen it before in a way. I just like love movies that have real New York exteriors, especially from the early 2000s. There's just a quality to them that I love. The plot I could do without, but the like the way it looked, I'm not mad about at all.
The Hard Rock Cafe.
Yeah. When it went from like the Knitting Factory to the Hard Rock Cafe Times Square, I'm like, that is
a relic.
That's kind of worse.
No, I wrote that down too. I was like, that's actually sucks. Why couldn't they go to like Brooklyn Steel or something? Like,
right.
That's honestly probably a harder space to fill with them not being like that. No. I always just not at the Hard Rock Cafe. Plug. It's so funny. It's so the time to be like Times Square, baby.
But
it's very New York.
I thought they were gonna go for big like Madison Square Garden, and then it was we sold out the Hard Rock. I was like, is that good or bad?
So if the last question is it worth watching? I am personally glad that I saw it as a fan of Lindsay, and it does lead to really funny conversation. Like, this was a fun conversation to have, especially with like trying to rewire it in a way that makes it make sense. I think for that alone, it is worth watching.
Yeah,
of course.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I mean, I watched it with a room, like, yeah, I watched it with my co-host for the show, and it definitely was one of, I mean, we've had fun shows all around, but it was one that I remember having fun with because it's just like, it's fun to laugh again, especially in this age of like what is being depicted as a 20-something's life, whether it's magical realism or not. And I feel like that's always just like the fun rabbit hole to go down with rom-coms and how zany they can get and how kind of just like not really based in reality. So it is just like fun to laugh at that for me. And again, yeah, as a Lindsay fan, I feel like she still rocks in this. So if you're a fan of her, it's worth a watch with a group. To watch solo is a jump. You have to watch it with a group so you can discuss during or discuss after for sure.
I did not have that,
Neither
and
did
I wish that I did.
That's true. That would really change it. Like, we used to be able to watch together more because, well, in the COVID era, when this podcast started, we watched a bunch of them together because we were recording in person at the time. And that definitely did change sometimes the takeaway or like the mood after,
right.
You know? Are there any upcoming Movie Surfers shows?
We tend to aim to do Movie Surfers monthly. We don't have like a set like day of the month yet, but we oftentimes will aim to do it once a month at Crystal Lake, Brooklyn. We've done Aquamarine in the past, Bratz, Just My Luck,
So good.
Falling for Christmas, another Lindsay joint, you know, and then we're doing Crossroads this upcoming week. So that's oftentimes like the type of genre we aim for. We did Shrek 2 though randomly as well, and that was honestly a big hit. So nice. Yeah, if you're in Brooklyn or New York, please come check us out. It's super fun times, and I always like end up like it's the highlight of my weekend whenever I do it because it's just me doing what I love to do, but with a whole group of people with a microphone in my hand.
The best. Yeah. You all have to listen to my opinions now. That's what we do.
I know, but I never try and like I never go like film analysis with it. Just me, you know, cracking. And it's just it's a fun time because I oftentimes do that with my friends and they're not signing up for that. So this time people know what they're getting into.
Yeah. Right. Okay, well, I wish I was I'm going to be in New York in like a few weeks. I'm mad that I'm missing that.
Hey, if we end up doing another one and it lines up, I will like please just reach out and let me know.
But let us know like your other socials where we can find you.
So you can follow me at Lexi Shaye _ LEXISHAYE_ on Twitter and on Instagram. I'm pretty active on both. Honestly, my Twitter is like kind of a film Twitter aesthetic, I guess. Love to just tweet about that. Or on Letterboxd, I'm at Lex Talks Movies there. Also, too, I have a Substack. I haven't posted in a while. I need to get back into it. But I often like to write about just like themes in different movies that I've liked, whether it's like good music supervision, things that I'm looking forward to, aka challengers, you know, just stuff like that.
Me too.
I love to like give my recommendations to anyone that wants to hear because a lot of times people be like, I didn't even know that movie was coming out. I'm like, you're welcome. So that's what I hope to do in my life is let people know that movies are coming out because they are.
Yeah. And with Challengers, we've been waiting like 10 years for that one. So
I've been waiting ever since they announced it on Deadline, like before there was even an image, because I was just like, Luca Guadagnino and Zendaya, I'm there. And then they released the trailer. I'm like, I'm there. I'm seated. My like seat is reserved, even though they haven't been released yet. I will be seated middle, like center stage there to see that all go down, and it's gonna be beautiful.
I am excited for that one too. Okay, well, great. Thanks for coming on. This was so fun. And you should come on again because the commentary was good.
I'd be so honored to. Like, y'all are amazing. I love this podcast and like what you guys discuss. And yeah, this was a great episode. I'm really excited.
So we hope you enjoyed our conversation with Lexi, our new friend. I thought that we really got into it. I thought we discussed what needed to be discussed. All of the details on where to follow Movie Surfers and Lexi are in our episode description. Until next time, roll the credits, Audrey.
For more from us, we're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Sleepover Cinema, and post a full video version of each episode on YouTube every Thursday. You can follow me, Audrey, at Audrey A. Leach on everything.
And you can follow me, Hannah, at Real Judy Garland on Instagram. And please join our Discord server if you have not yet. The link is in our episode description.
You can check out our merch at twopinkproductions.com/shop. We have t-shirts, sweatshirts, stickers, pens, hats, and more.
And if you love Sleepover Cinema, if you also will defend Lindsay Lohan till the death, share this episode with a friend or two and leave us a glowing 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, letting us know what you would like to see us cover next.
Sleepover Cinema is a production of Evergreen Podcasts, produced, edited, and engineered by us, Hannah and Audrey Leach. Sleepover Cinema is mixed by Sean Rule Hoffman with theme music by Josh Perlman Hall. Executive producer is Michael D'Aloia.
Oh no!